Добрый вечер, уважаемые
Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends.
Good evening, dear friends, esteemed ladies and gentlemen. Today, from my point of view, we have a fantastic opportunity to participate all together in the discussion of three leading brains of the world connected with the business education. And we have pretty interesting, a little bit futuristic topic named Business Education During Pandemic, Straight After It, and Educate Later. I want to make apologies for the people who are speaking English as native language. My native language is Russian, and so I'm speaking with a strong Muscovite accent. Still, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce those people whose pictures you've already seen on the screen of your monitor. First of all, and our first speaker to discuss the topic would be the president of the biggest association of business schools in our world, AACSB International, Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business International. Then I'm planning to give floor to the dean of number one, or number two, or number one, or number two business school of Europe and one of the best business schools of the world, to Professor François Ortalo-Magné, the dean of famous London Business School. And then it would be my pleasure also to give floor to a fantastic man, Sergey Netesin. By the family name, you understand that he has Russian roots, and from his biography, I know that he studied at the university straight across the street from the Academy of National Economy and Public Administration, from which today we organize our today's discussion. Sergey Netesin is Deputy Dean of number one or number two? Number one or number two best business school of the United States, and very often they say of the world, Whorton Business School, University of Pennsylvania. And I want to stress that it's really fantastic business school. I was lucky to study there in the year of 1992 and still belong to the alumni of this business school. It is great. So I consider that our experts would outline their vision about what would happen with business education, what would happen straight after the pandemic, what would happen later, how the present-day disruptive technologies would influence our programs, what would happen with format, because now we are moving towards online, but no one really knows what would happen when we'll be able to return back to the classrooms, what would be the proportions our clients would like. Then the problem of social responsibility, whether business education should be oriented for shareholders or stakeholders. Then the problem of research, whether it is in-depth scientific or applied research for the clients and customers of business, and many other problems. Here I shall make a full stop, and before I shall give floor to the president of AACSB, I want to propose to make our voting. The question is, for those people who are following us, do you think that in 10 years business education would exist? Or do you think that it would disappear? And do you think that you do not have any opinion? We decided to ask this question because just recently, yesterday, I read at one of our mass media journals an article. I'm thinking how to characterize it politely. Pretty ignorant article about the death of MBA programs, which are losing popularities dramatically. During my life, it seems to me it is the dozens funerals of MBA programs, and many of those people who participated in those funerals disappeared after that time, and MBA programs are flourishing. Still, It's a full stop. And now it's my pleasure and honor to give floor to fantastic expert, the president of AACSB International, to Professor Caryn Beck-Dudley. If you please.
Thank you very, very much, Sergey, for that very warm introduction. And I'm really happy to virtually be with all of you today and discuss what I see as the future of business education, but I'll be really interested in what the panelists think as well, because I'm actually not sure what the next 10 years are looking like, because I don't know what actually tomorrow is going to look like. So everything's going to be speculative from here on out. But for those of you who are not familiar with AACSB, for more than 100 years, AACSB has served as the world's largest association for business education. We are a connector and a convener, bringing together lifelong learners, business schools, and business to create the next generation of great leaders. We are in more than 100 countries and territories, and the collective strength of the organization is rooted in our diverse perspectives, a global mindset, and a commitment to creating positive societal impact. So AACSB's accreditation is the highest standard of quality in business education, and we ensure that AACSB accredited schools are contributing relevant and impactful thought leadership, creating positive societal impact, and preparing an empowered workforce of business leaders. I've only been in this role for 8 months. Before that, I was the dean at Santa Clara University, which is located in Silicon Valley, California. But during that time, I've witnessed the outstanding flexibility and innovation schools have exhibited during such an unprecedented time. And before we started, the panelists and I were all talking about everything that people have done very, very, very quickly. And I continue to be impressed by the commitment, our strong relationships and collaboration of our colleagues to help elevate business education and supporting our peers globally. So I applaud all of you, and I'm proud to call you colleagues, and I hope next year I can meet many of you in person. What I keep reminding myself, though, is that we thought this was going to be a sprint, or at least I did, and now we know we're actually in a marathon. And while as the industry, we have managed to survive, and Sergey, I think that we're going to thrive actually as business educators for a variety of reasons we can get to. Even during this time, though, AACSB remains dedicated to enabling excellence while providing timely access to thought leadership, best practices, and data for decision-making that advances business education throughout the world. So together, I think we'll embrace agility in every form as we face the year ahead and what changes it may bring. I always knew, and maybe this is because I was in Silicon Valley for a while, that disruption would occur. Like many of you, though, I thought it would be technological. And the irony is not lost on me that it's a virus that has caused this disruption. And now hopefully with a vaccine or several vaccines, the technology now exists to help move us forward. But our recent disruption brought, I think, 3 primary challenges to all phases of business education. One is our continued adaptation to a virtual environment. The second is mental health issues. And the third is a financial impact on our member institutions. So as most schools have been virtually managed the last 9 months, we will see improvements, I think, in course offerings and technological innovations. We'll continue to see exciting evolutions in delivery formats, especially in experiential learning, admissions, grading, and the role of faculty. But these evolutions will continue to be stressful for those involved. So let me talk about mental health effects. The isolation, the disconnectedness, and a host of other factors have impacted our well-being. I can tell you as a person who started a job during the pandemic, not being able to go into an office and meet my peers has been very, very stressful. But it's imperative that we make concerted efforts to stay connected, share our issues with one another, and provide support. And we need to maintain and prioritize our mental and physical health during this time, and maybe double down on that over the next 10 years. And then financially, we know that each country, state, and region is impacted very differently, and that each unique situation calls for a variety of courses. So we've seen a lot of schools banding together to work on similar academic programs and offerings to reduce the costs. We'll continue to see, I think, a rise in online program offerings in order to defray those costs. And then there will be budget adjustments, and there already have been, when fewer students return to campus, so schools lose revenue from tuition, meal plans, room and board, philanthropy, etc. So this is why it's important, I think, to connect and network communities and conferences like this to be able to discuss issues with others facing similar challenges. So we've seen a variety of changes this year, but I think the most significant long-term one that we'll see after the pandemics have been in the following areas. Once again, program formats. I do not see us going back to totally face-to-face. I think we're in a change of abrupt transition, and being able to support hybrid programs and online programs efficiently and effectively, I think, will be incredibly important. The next is experiential learning. We will see schools adapt and configure new digital exponential learning opportunities, not just in the classroom, but like virtual study abroad, virtual internships, and virtual company visits, etc. One of the more interesting ones, I think, will be on how do we maintain the integrity of assessment and grading. Many schools are rethinking traditional testing and admissions requirements, and faculty are building flexibility in grading. So, for example, in the US, 64 out of the top 100 top business schools waived or made optional standardized admission tests this year. Some even question whether the concept of graduation is a concept. Does it mean the same thing in the current world where lifelong learning is essential? Or is graduation, as opposed to a celebration, and maybe it's just a celebration or a mark in time as we move forward to continue to learn? Also in recruitment and admissions, once again, the traditional student recruiting methods are no longer reliable since students can't necessarily travel, and I'm not sure how often that will come back. And campus tours and meeting faculty are already now an online experience. One other one is really the role of faculty and instructors. Faculty are no longer subject matter experts. People can find subject matter all over the internet, and sometimes better than what the faculty member has. And so now a faculty member may be a coach, a champion, a mental health advisor, and that is a very different role than what faculty have been trained for in the past. And they're not trained for that, I don't think, in PhD programs now, and I think that'll be an interesting one. And then finally, on the future of work, I think, is changing. Employers now know what employees they need, exactly how many they're going to work, how do we work in and manage a remote workforce, whether students are prepared to perform in the new workplace, etc. And there are, of course, a lot more, but I think I'll stop now and listen to the other panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And when I was following Caryn, I immediately recollected the situation in our country at the end of March, beginning of April, when all of a sudden all the universities, within a very short period of time, within a week or couple of weeks, just following very famous managerial, methods or metaphor, the burning platform jump or burning platform decision, when all of our universities went to online education. And lots of problems which we couldn't settle for years were settled pretty quickly. However, the problems of enrollment, the problems of estimation of quality, the problems of retraining the faculties, the problem of choosing the platform, the problem of working with interactive classes, the problems of working with experienced customers and managers, they're still here because we have to reach the same level of quality. And I'm very thankful to Caryn for mentioning and characterizing the majority of those problems. What if I ask François Ortalo-Magné to continue this analysis? François, are you here?
Вы с нами?
Да. Спасибо вам, Сергей. Спасибо. Я с удовольствием возьму эстафету Caryn.
Getting the Russian translation on my computer. I don't know if something can be done about that, please. Yes, thank you.
You have to press where English, EN. Press it and
that's where I am. So okay, so hopefully it seems like it's sorted out. So thank you so much. Sorry about that, and thank you for the invitation. I think what's really interesting is, Caryn being the president of AACSB, what's wonderful is she has a perspective from hundreds, thousands of schools around the world. Maybe I can share with you a bit of the perspective from London Business School. Like Sergey said, just like Whorton, we are one of the premier schools in the world with a particularly global footprint. And for example, we do rely on the Heathrow Airport working really well to fly people in from around the world and take our degree programs or take our executive education programs. And we are actually very active in Russia. We have a significant partnership with Sberbank, where we deliver a joint degree together. A bit more about LBS that's relevant to Sergey's question is the fact that we pride ourselves in the differentiation of our programs, that in the fact that they are anchored in academic research, and therefore they do rely on star research faculty. And also that our programs are enriched by the diversity of the populations we assemble, typically in London, around our programs, be it degree or executive education. And so the pandemic was a significant blow and a shock for us when we had to go online in the space of 24 or 48 hours, whatever that was. In particular, because at that time, the main experience we had of online, we as a whole world, was through outfits like Coursera, which demonstrated, or edX, right? We demonstrated that you could do online for very cheap for lots of people. And that's not what we do. We do programs that tend to be very expensive and high premium value for small groups of people. And so the question for us is, once we go to online, are we capable of delivering and continuing to deliver a premium value that comes from our anchoring in research, from the diversity of the participants we assemble, and beyond just delivering value, our customers, students, corporations willing to pay for it and getting benefits, premium benefit that justify the premium price. And our experience actually is very positive. The answer is yes and yes. What we discovered is that we could use online to deliver high-touch, high-premium experiences. And in a way, I wonder whether Zoom did it on purpose, but there is a way in which the Zoom technology is exactly where it needs to be for star faculty to shine. And that's what happened, and that's what we experienced. Now, it's not enough to provide value. The customers have to want it. What we learned there was a lot of ex-ante reluctance and people just wondering at the unknown. But our experience is that every individual, student, participants, or corporate client, every one of those who have been intrigued enough and open enough to give us a chance to possibly redesign with them how we approach the learning, have been more satisfied. And actually, I'll tell you that we have had higher net promoter scores, so higher satisfaction, lately online with corporate clients than we had prior to shifting to online. Now, what's very important to understand is it's not because online we are reproducing the face-to-face experience. The experience is definitely different to be online with our faculty on Zoom than to come to London, our beautiful campus on Regent's Park, and enjoy our campus, our faculty, each other, and the whole of London. But what's happened is through careful redesign and collaboration between the learning specialists and the faculty, what we are observing, and that's why we get satisfaction from our participants and our clients, is that we are able to create premium value, a different value, but premium value nonetheless. Now the next question is, if it's going to be different while still premium, are there some benefits to online that we should make sure to capture when the world comes out of this pandemic in whatever new normal looks like? And I'll tell you one that I find particularly exciting. And that's something we have observed with some of our major corporate clients around the world. We have had feedback that the introverted members of those corporate clients have never been as engaged face-to-face that they are online. And with one of our clients in particular, with whom we've had a partnership for many years, this is about 40% of the workforce. 40% of the participants who are actually better engaging with the learning experience than ever did when they flew to London. And that's a big deal, because we know that engagement is fundamental to learning. So we'll definitely learn from that. I would say another side benefit we've discovered from online is that it's become easier for us to not just train the usual level of executives that we train typically in organization, but from that top layer that we train to actually cascade down the organization, the learning, so that everyone together can be more effective. Because once a program is designed for online interactions, it is not so complex or so difficult to repurpose some of the digital assets that we create and then complement them with different types of interactions so that we don't just train the same higher level layer, but we actually take it down. And that's another way in which we are multiplying our impact by being online, in the fact that we are touching a broader constituency within our corporate client. So overall, I would say, while it was difficult, I'm delighted that my colleagues, faculty, learning designers, technologists have figured out a way to deliver what looks like just as much impact online than face-to-face. It's different, but it is very valuable, and is still commanding premium prices and premium interest from top corporations around the world and top potential students around the world. Where I think this is going post-pandemic, we are, like everyone else, working very hard to learn as fast as we can from the current lessons, and hybrid is definitely here to stay. To me, what the big shift that I would see between right after the pandemic and 10 years out is, like Caryn said, along the dimension of lifelong learning. And in particular, we haven't had the time yet, but I know that the technology is there for this hybrid and online experience to be much more personalized. So to me, that's a big shift that's going to happen, is right after the pandemic, there'll be more hybrid. And over the coming years, we are all going to figure out together how is it that we can better give our alumni and the people who are with us on the lifelong learning journey, individual or corporations, opportunities to think, opportunities to learn, and opportunities to connect. And at LBS, we'll keep doing this with a very strong research anchor and making the most of the diversity of the community we have assembled to make sure that it enriches everyone's experience. And that is my dream, that out of that, we'll walk to a world that is better accepting and respectful of diversity, that is more inclusive, where people feel they belong and they get a chance to thrive.
Thank you very much, François. May I ask you a little bit provocative question? You see, in fact, thank you very much, because your perception of how the leading business schools should behave now, when lots of them still have to stay in isolation regime, and how to provide proper quality by smaller groups of customers, by bringing interaction into online classes. All that is great, and I'm very, very thankful to you for that. And still a question. Let us assume for a second that on some particular date, say in 1 year, the pandemic situation would disappear, and the people would have a free option whether to study online or offline. What's your idea? What would be the proportions of online and offline studies at the universities and at the top business schools?
So I think for us, it's going to be primary core of interactions and teaching is going to be offline. It's going to be face-to-face, our campus in London and campus in Dubai. However, that's going to be much better complemented by a digital experience. And in particular, the digital experience is going to allow our community to expand its reach. I mean, we know already how great it has been to use online technology for guest speakers and to engage people from around the world. Look, today we are all here from different parts of the world. None of us had to fly, so that's very convenient. That's going to stay. And I also think the digital component is going to help turn experiences into a really nice thread for people that adds to learning impact. So I don't want to punt. You ask me on a percentage. I would say that easily for some of our core programs, there'll be more than 20% of the activities that are online. I wouldn't be surprised when it comes to corporate experiences, where there will be a higher proportion of online than face-to-face, simply because of the cost of organization to send their employees away from home. And because we're able to design fantastic experiences on site, while I, for example, can foresee particular, the kind of corporate clients who send their executive to us in London to spend a week a year, gives them a time to reflect, to take stock of where we are and where they are and think about the future, be creative. I think that will remain. That will remain 100% face-to-face, because this is about them coming to London and taking the time to think differently. So my sense is there will be a whole range from 100% face-to-face to I don't know that we will ever do anything that is 0% face-to-face at RBS, but there'll be a whole range of such activities.
Thank you very, very much. And now I just have to give floor to one more outstanding representative of our discussion, to Deputy Dean of Whorton Business School, University of Pennsylvania, Sergey Netesin. Sergey, you're welcome.
Thank you, Sergey. Thank you for having me here. Let me start by talking about business education during the pandemic. So what we saw during the pandemic is that the rate of innovation in the education industry accelerated a lot. And online learning for sure has been talked about for many, many years, but it has not been the mainstream. It was still kind of on the fringes. Many of my colleagues would never teach online. They would say this openly and say, I just don't do online. That's not interesting to me. And that, of course, ended. So all of my colleagues now teach online. Most institutions that would never start online degree programs now essentially have online degree programs. And what we see also in the corporate world among organizations, many organizations did not really value online learning. They were not willing to pay for online learning. And now they are paying for online learning. They're increasingly on board. They understand that you have to pay for online learning differently. They had an idea that this is just something much, much cheaper, so it shouldn't cost as much. But really, if you want a real online learning, kind of a synchronous online learning, blended online learning, it's actually pretty expensive to deliver. Like François mentioned, we also saw this dichotomy where some of the students, some of the participants are actually preferring online learning. So, for example, younger audiences, we offer a number of programs to high school audiences, and they love online because this is an online generation. Undergraduates love online, but as you progress towards older and older students, you go to executive education participants. Even there, like François mentioned, we see this dichotomy, we see this duality. There are participants who tell us, oh, I'm not going to come to your executive program because it's now online. I'm going to wait for everything to open. But then there are others who are saying, oh, finally, I can take a course at Whorton because I would never travel before. I would never have time before. But now they're coming to our online programs. We learned a few unexpected things in the last few months. For example, we learned that economics of online learning are not what people thought of them. I think most people, most of our students, most of our program participants expected that online learning should be much, much, much cheaper. And we are still hearing these voices from students that, hey, you have to reduce tuition because you are now online. And we are explaining to them that, look, the way we deliver online, it's not Coursera kind of asynchronous type online. We deliver a lot of synchronous content, and so faculty time of teaching did not go down. So faculty costs did not go down. If anything, they increased because now faculty have to interact on discussion boards, pre-record some lectures, think through how to prepare quizzes online, how to control for cheating, and those kinds of things. So if anything, delivering online learning is more expensive than delivering face-to-face learning. I would love to just be able to go to a classroom and just teach a class. That is seamless for me. Delivering a blended online class is considerably more involved. Another thing that we learned is that we are probably more efficient working on research remotely. There is no commute. There are no kind of annoying, and I'm jokingly saying annoying face-to-face conferences that you have to go to anymore. So there is much more time for research. But at the same time, we learned something surprising, that there is a huge inequality, that actually men are becoming more productive, women are becoming less productive because we are all sitting at home and they are much more likely to have to take kind of aspects of household. And unfortunately, what we see in numbers is that female faculty members are really suffering, and there is research to back it up, and schools are trying to do something about it, extend tenure clocks, provide all kinds of support, and so on. But this is not something I think anyone kind of expected to see. Numbers are pretty drastic. We are seeing research papers about decrease in female faculty productivity by something like 30%. So this is something that schools increasingly need to think about. We are also seeing that pandemic has increased inequality in education. There are top schools like Whorton, like LBS, that have resources, IT resources that put together online courses quickly, but there is a huge number of universities that just do not have adequate capabilities. And so the gap is growing. There are schools that do not have chief information officers, they do not have adequate support for online education, and they need help. So I work with the Gates Foundation, for example, in helping institutions that do not have proper resources to create online learning. And finally, I think financially we are seeing that the schools are recovering. Initially, it looked like a disaster. We were not sure if students would come back to schools at all, or would they all take a year off, a 2 year off to wait for pandemic to be over. But we see now that schools are back in hiring mode. They're hiring faculty. They're approving budgets. We see that students are coming back to study. We see that there are not that many students that are taking a year off or 2 years off. So it seems like education is not going to suffer this incredible blow, and schools are not going to go bankrupt in thousands. So at least that's what it looks like to me. And if I quickly move to Educate later, so what is going to happen in Educate? So clearly blended learning is here to stay. Other speakers talked about this. In the future, I think most programs will be blended, and online learning is going to increase in quality a lot. We are learning non-stop. We are learning about technology to use, and we are learning about all kinds of softwares that can be used to enhance online learning. We are also learning that you can create programs which are online first, which is not just taking an existing course and moving it online. You can actually create online programs from scratch. They should look different, they should feel different. And just as there are digital first brands on the internet, there is digital first education. We are launching all kinds of fascinating experiments, like we are launching global virtual courses at Whorton, for example, where you can literally take a course in another geography while never leaving Philadelphia. And more and more of that will be happening. Schools will invest in IT. They will invest a lot. Many schools now understand that this is a key. Online learning is here to stay, and you have to have infrastructure for that. And what I expect to happen in 10 years is a lot of non-degree education, a lot of shorter programs, because online learning allows you to unbundle education. You are no longer held to kind of a 1-2 year format where you come on campus and then you get a bundle of courses. I can get those courses now sitting at home over the course of 10 years, and I can get like one course here and one course there, and I can combine and blend this learning. And as a result, as another result of this non-degree education, what we are going to see is true lifelong learning. And what most schools think about lifelong learning is kind of educating for older populations, people who are 50, 60, 70. It actually extends more and more in the other direction. So now in business education, we are educating students who are as young as 15, and we are probably going to go, even to a middle school. And so across the board, we expect more non-degree kind of a shorter classes, blended learning with big elements of online learning. So I'm going to stop here with my predictions.
Sergey, thank you very, very much. Thank you, and you are just in time because we still have 2, maximum 3 minutes. And I want to thank cordially Caryn Beck-Dudley, the leader of the top business school associations of the world, and I'm very proud to say that I'm representing the first and the only Russian business school that managed to get that great accreditation. Thank you very much for very good lessons and helping us to move upward. Thank you very much, François. Your experience you shared with us is fantastic. Sergey, I met you today for the first time. You're a great man, and your experience would be of interest for sure for many of the Russian people who are in business education. I still want to tell you that our voting about business education, will it disappear in 10 years, will it not, or I do not know, gave pretty paradox-type results. 75% of the people consider business education would be alive, and that is normal. But 18% of people mentioned that business education would disappear. And as a remark, I consider this is because the people are thinking business education should be changed within the coming time. And I'm very, very thankful to all the participants of our today's discussion for their sharing of their experience. While we still have a minute or maybe a minute and a half, what would you wish to the deans and leaders of Russian business education? Just one sentence for each, if you please.
For me, I wish you agility and flexibility.
Thank you very, very much.
I would say there's never been a better moment in education for us to collaborate within our institution across the traditional silos, particularly faculty and staff, and then across institutions. And so what I wish you is unexpected collaborations that have the impact that beats your expectations.
Thank you very, very much. Sergey?
I wanted to say something in parallel to François, more collaboration across borders and engagement with wider educational community all around the world.
Thank you very, very much. We're a little bit in a better situation for today's day in Russia because for our executive programs, about 80% are inside the class. The situation permits with masks, with social distance, with cleaning the rooms and wintering the rooms every 2 hours, but still we can afford that, and we do hope that we shall continue in this way. And I wish you also to survive this very hot pandemic situation. And I do hope to see all three of you next year at Gaidar Forum with in-room discussion. And I promise to show you the beauty of today's Moscow. It was really changed recently. So thank you very, very much for your participation and your experience. Hope to see you in future soon. And once again, I'd like to invite you for the next year to come and to participate in Gaidar Forum. Hope that situation would permit us to do that. Thank you very much. Спасибо.